You are now listening to Talk Your Jits podcast.
Right. Welcome back to Talk Your Jits podcast. This podcast is, as the name implies, all about jiu-jitsu. And today's guest is a blue belt who trains at Hendo BJJ, located in Henderson, North Carolina. Ladies and gentlemen, Darin Pace.
What is going on, man? How are you doing?
Good, man. Good, man. You know, it's always a good time we get to sit down and talk about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
Well, first and foremost, sir, I would like to extend my thanks for you taking some time out and doing an episode with me today. Greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Not a problem, man. Well, without further ado, let's give the people what they want, man. If you want to formally introduce yourself again, by all means, and let's hear about your jiu-jitsu journey.
Cool, man. My name is Darin Pace, and I'm a one-stripe blue belt at Hendo BJJ in Hendersonville, North Carolina. I'm a husband, and a father to 2 daughters, and a son on the way.
Nice. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, December, so got a lot to do in a few months and trying to keep training in there somewhere, with all that going on. But yeah, man, my journey, into jiu-jitsu is pretty interesting. I was at a different job prior to, I work as a fitness equipment salesman now. And before that, I was working at a auto dealership, and I'd pass by this building every day. And this building was like notorious for having like a bunch of different businesses in there. And so there's like a new business. I'm seeing cars out there. I'm like, I wonder what it is now, And I kept having this like pull to this place, and I didn't understand why. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of, I'm a real spiritual guy. Like, I'm a follower of Christ. And so like everything means something, you know what I'm saying? And I kept having this pull. And so I pull in there. There's like nobody in the parking lot. I'm like, I'm going to find out what this is. Well, of course, I pull in, I see the Gracie Triangle, and I'm like, okay, I've always been a fan of MMA and, like UFC 1, Bellator, stuff like that. And so I was like, oh yeah, jiu-jitsu, that's awesome, So I emailed my professor now, Professor Larry Sheely, and he sent me, a couple emails back. We talked a little bit. I went in one day. I had a good first class. It was a lot of fun. And after, talking to my wife and my spiritual mentor, it was like, there's something here. You should probably explore it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, man, I've been going ever since. And it's true, man. Like I really found something, timeless, right? Like,
right.
Jiu-jitsu, like when you first start, and honestly, like it's all magic, right? At first, it's all like super magical, and it's a really cool thing now, having trained, for the amount of time that I have, that like every new person, you get to see that same when that first cool thing happens. And yeah, man, it's a magical thing, man. So I love it. It's definitely, something I'm so glad that, God put in my life. And even, my relationship with my professor has been awesome. He's trained with all the OGs, man. Like, his first jiu-jitsu experience was, 94 with Hickson, which was, crazy.
Wow.
Trained under Hoist for a long, long time. And now we're under Higan Machado. So we've got the Machado brothers. It's all like very rooted in that deep lineage, which is really cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah, man. Like you said, dude, jiu-jitsu is timeless, dude. Like, I've been going for 6 years now, and there's still times where jiu-jitsu will surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would never thought, like, just like you think you've seen it all, and then someone shows up and it shows you something crazy. You're like, what the is that, man? Like, it's so crazy how long this martial art has been going, and they're still discovering new techniques and new, just new stuff every single day. You pop on social media, and it's like, oh, let me introduce you to the XYZ, this and this and that. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
So,
and what's so cool about it too is even with like the evolution of the art and the sport, it all still traces back to this original thought, right? Like, even with some of the guys that are evolving this game, the way that it's evolving right now, like it all traces back to the beginning, you know? So yeah, it's awesome, man. I just love how deep it is.
Yeah, it like you said, it gets deep, man. It gets really, really deep. Because I was having a conversation with a couple friends, a couple guys I train with, and we were just talking about like, the progression of jiu-jitsu. Like how when we started, jiu-jitsu was big, but we never thought it would grow to what it grown to like now, where it's like it's almost mainstream.
Yeah,
like jiu-jitsu is almost mainstream, and it's like, they've been having talks about it being in Olympics, and doing so much more with it, man. And it's been awesome to be a part of this community for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I live in a really small town. Like, I'm not maybe 15 minutes away. Our biggest town where I'm from is Asheville. A lot of people know Asheville, North Carolina. But just in this small town that I'm in, there's a lot of good jiu-jitsu even here, which is, I mean, that's crazy, and it wasn't here, like you said, 6 to 10 years ago, it wasn't here.
Yeah. Like I can't even remember like, what attracted me to jiu-jitsu, because when I was growing up, there was no jiu-jitsu schools. It was like, karate, taekwondo, and whatever. So when I finally found jiu-jitsu, it was like, oh, okay, this is different. The whole experience was like completely different, because like you have a formal attire, which is your gi, and then it's like, okay, you have your gi, and then it's like, I can choke someone with this.
Yeah.
It's like wait, what? I could do what? I can, you learn how to control people. And that's one of the things that really drew me to jiu-jitsu, was the fact that like the first time I ever rolled was with two people that was way smaller than I was. And it's like, there is no way someone this small should be able to subdue me like the way they did. And it's like, oh, nah.
Yeah.
I gotta find this voodoo, man. I gotta figure this out, man. I gotta come back and see how this happened. And ever since then, man, I just been glued to it, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that is a good point. I mean, like my professor, he's 65, 66 years old, and I mean, he walks in the gym, and I mean, you wouldn't think much, but man, the pressure that he can put on oh man, it's unreal, man. It is crazy.
And that's another thing I find so fascinating about jiu-jitsu is like, you see, when you hear people in that age of 50s, 60s, and sometimes 70, and you like, okay, they are XYZ in jiu-jitsu. 9 times out of 10, they're still active. Yeah. They're not, there's not like, you see old taekwondo or old karate, master, he barely trains. He still kind of teaches, but he just more so like an observer of the school. But you hear like jiu-jitsu, like, yeah, my instructor is this, he this old, and he just rolled with whoever. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
Where they do that at, man?
Yeah, I mean, that was what's so cool about, getting to meet Larry, and we've all gotten to meet Hegan, and it's really interesting, like getting to sit down with these guys and hear these stories, especially, them telling stories about Elio, even Elio long tooth that side of his life where, you know, he was really old and he was still out there. Like that's incredible, man.
That's the goal, man, right there, man. Just to be able to do what I love doing and like well in my 50s and 60s and whatnot. And it's like something to look forward to. It's like it's something to strive for, you know, like, man, just to think like 65 years old and you're still out there rolling like you're in your 20s. Because you know, right now your body feels like you're 60, but
yeah, man. And I think that's what's cool is like it's all like you can tailor this game, you know, to different stages of your life, you know, depending on where your body's at athletically, or, you know, you don't even have to be athletic to do this. And so you can tailor that game to, you know, wherever you're at that stage of your life, you know. You find those, it's cool to be like, you know, I'm in this stage, I'm still relatively young in the game, you know, but probably got a year and a half under my belt, and that's cool. And I'm getting exposed to, you know, a lot of different things, especially right now I'm prepping for my first tournament. And so,
okay.
Yeah. So, you know, Larry's bringing in a lot of, you know, heavy hitters for me to train with, and there's stuff I'm being exposed to that's, you know, like, wow, it's crazy. But then what's so cool about it is you hear all of the, you know, the OG guys, you know, talk about how they got exposed to all of these things and then they just boiled their game down to the simplest form, and they mastered these, you know, few techniques, and, you know, created like Hodger Gracie, you know, he says he only mastered like 6 or 7 techniques or something like that, but like the complexity that he built in his game based on these handful of techniques, like that's so cool, man. That's such a cool thing to think about.
Oh yeah, and that's like one of the things I admire about him, because it rings true, because that's one thing my instructor drilled in us, where it's like, you know, as a white belt, you get fascinated by all the pretty lights and all the, you know, spectacular movements and stuff. And it's like once you get the blue belt, you're kind of like, oh yeah, that's, you know, that's awesome. And then like, you know, purple and brown, and once you started to get further and further, yeah, you love to see all those stuff. You'll rep it, you know, you'll work it, you'll be in class repping, you know, Deli Hevas and Baron-Bolos and stuff like that. But you know for a fact you're never going to use it. Never going to use it. I'm like, I have no interest in going playing, like, well, I can't say that now because I started playing deep half. I don't know why, but it's just been
deep half's so fun though.
It is. But so when you have a school full of people that's all over 200 pounds, it's not that fun. That's true. That's where the problem comes in there. I'm like, because our school, we are, you know, a lot of our guys are heavy set. They're wrestlers, strong guys. And I'm like, why am I learning to play deep half? This is the dumbest thing ever. But I've been a little bit successful forward. But yeah, man, it's like once you get so far into your game, dude, you just start picking little stuff, like picking little stuff. And, you know, back to him, where all the stuff that his foundation for his 6 or 7 moves are basic stuff. Arm bars, triangles. He has his specific takedown to get to your back to a rear neck choke.
Yeah.
And you know it. Everyone knows his game, but no one can stop it.
Yeah.
And that's the magic of jiu-jitsu, man, because even my instructor, like, I know his game. Like he would tell you straight up, like, you know, his first few moves is, if you're in this guard, he's working he's a cross lapel grip, sleeve grip. You know it every single time, and it never fails. He always gets what he wants. So it's like, yeah, man. I see it now.
Yeah, that's so cool, man. Yeah, I just love that. I love that, you can develop. I mean, you can just continuously develop, and there's always the well's so deep. And like you said earlier, like there's all this new stuff happening
Mm-hmm.
all the time, and it's all these variations of I mean, how many different guards are there now, Like
I know,
it's
right?
crazy. It's crazy, So
Because I almost feel like that old guy, like, back in my day, it was only, open and close guard. Now you got, you got your De La Rivas, you got the X guard, you got the Brazil guard, you got all these different names just for small little variation. It's like, no, just give me, just break it down, keep it simple, open, close guard. That's all we know. But yeah, it's constantly, like you said, it's constantly evolving, constantly changing. And it's exciting to witness that, because like I said, when I started, it wasn't like, I mean, you had BJJ Fanatics, you had some stuff on YouTube, but now you can just type in BJJ XYZ and you're going to get like thousands and thousands of videos of people doing Americanas, but all 1,000 videos are tailored differently.
Yeah.
So,
and even like the minute details of, okay, here's how I get to the Americana, like, this little adjustment or that little thing, and it's all tailored to whatever works for your body, and it's biomechanics, because we're all different, so that's where all the variations come from. I can't remember, it was like I was listening to BJJ Fanatics not long ago, and I can't remember who was on it, but he was talking about like Lasso Guard. When Lasso Guard came out, how it was just like, oh, this is all this new stuff, and now Lasso Guard's like an old school sounding thing now.
Yeah,
it's wild, man. It's cool.
Because like, going back to like the techniques, for example, I was going over one day in class, was going over different arm locks, so Americana, spiral lock, blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking at the Kimura, for example, and I'm like, okay, we're taught to, like, work to get your figure four grip. You slide the hand under, under the elbow, grab your wrist, blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
But I was sitting there and I was just looking at my training partner, and I was like, let me try something. So instead of having the arm out, I kind of had it like a little bit higher up, higher than usual. And I noticed if you get that arm higher up, it creates a little pocket under the shoulder.
Oh yeah.
It's easier to slide your hand under, that you're not, so you're not fighting strength or trying to fight to squeeze your hand through. It's like, if it's high enough, it's just a nice little pocket, slide your hand through, and it makes the Kimura tighter. But that's what we're talking about, the little minute details when it comes to these techniques, because it's like, not every, I can teach you, or you can learn the Kimura, Americana, blah, 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 but it's always going to be tailored different depending on the body size.
Sure.
So one's, a lot bigger than you, a lot wider than you, a lot smaller. You just kind of make those small variations. And that's what makes jiu-jitsu so, so timeless, because you can take one specific technique, but there's like 50 variations for that one.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
it's amazing to see, man. It's amazing to just, like I said, just sit back and just like watch it grow and watch all these people just sprout out of nowhere. And there's like, 15-time champions. Like, I've never heard of you before, but okay, I'm going to follow you now.
yeah, man. It's like, crazy.
Because you heard, like, you got Gordon Ryan, and then it's like, then you start hearing the other name, like the Machado brothers, and you start hearing the Rotolo brothers, and you start hearing Mike Musumeci, and it's like, dude, where do you guys come from?
I know.
It's like, we've been doing jiu-jitsu. I'm like, I'm 19. I've been doing jiu-jitsu for like 37 years. It's like, what? Like, how come I never heard of you before? But you're like 15-time world champions, and you're just, you just learn how to walk. Who else? There's another guy. I can't remember his name, but I know his last name is Gawal. but he's a younger guy. He's kind of like around the age of the Rotolo brothers, and he's a monster.
Okay, I need to check him
and
out.
It's,
I don't think
it's like, dude, where'd you guys, like I said, where'd you guys come from? Like, what rock was you hiding under?
Yeah. I mean, those, especially like, you know, the Rotolo brothers and Mikey. I mean, man, the things that they're, you know, they're furthering this thing on. I mean, you know, we're starting to, you know, we have a rule at our school, like you don't foot lock or anything like that at white belt, and so now like
really?
there's a yeah. I mean, there's some schools like that. I mean, like John Jacques Machado, he's talked about in the past. He's not crazy about teaching white belts, you know, foot stuff, which is interesting because then you have like his guy Eddie Bravo, and they're all about that. That's like day
leg
one,
lockers.
heel hooks. Like we're gonna learn heel hooks day one, guys. You know, like so I mean it's really wild. But anyways, you know, so we're getting into all that side of things, but you know, so getting to see what like Mikey's doing right now with like the Mikey lock and different things like that. I mean, it's really crazy, like how these guys, like, oh yeah, I've been training since I was like 2 years old or whatever, and that's all they've done. I mean, that's incredible, you know. And it's funny because like I played basketball in school, right? And my dad was, you know, he was a big high school wrestler, and you know had offers to go to college, got an injury, it was like a whole thing, but you know, I told some buddies of mine the other day, like, gosh, if I had it to do over again, you know, I probably would have, well, obviously would have done jujitsu if I would have known about it back then. But like, at the very least, I would have wrestled because, you know, like it's all that hindsight, you know, and you don't realize how passionate that you're going to be about something. And so seeing like these guys who really have, they're like that first wave of men now who have done jujitsu as a sport, right?
Yeah.
They've trained jujitsu, you know, and I'm sure they probably played other sports or whatever, but like that was the main focus. And now they are furthering this thing the same way that like all the 57 Gracie sons did.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing, man. It's definitely amazing. And you know, just speaking of like, you know, I know you mentioned you have like, you know, you have 2 daughters, and I have 2 girls as well.
Oh, cool.
You know, my daughter, she trains, and you know, she's only been doing it for a couple months, man. But seeing her advance the way that she does, because I still remember like her first day in class where, you know, we're going over our principles and rules and stuff. And she's just like so scared. And she had this like, you know, this look on her face. But now, you know, it's like she'll come this, like she knows we go to class every Tuesday and Thursday. She'll still come ask me, Dad, we're going to class today? Yes, we're going to class today. Are we doing no-gi today? I'm like, we'll see. But yeah, it went from, you know, it went from her being like really timid to like, I have her lead warm-ups.
That's awesome.
Like I'm like, hey, hit it. You know what to do. She, you know, she warm them up. You know, get them. You know, they're running laps. They run. You know, they do their, you know, drills and stuff like that. And then we get on with class.
That's awesome.
And it's just, man. And I just be like, man, I wish I could have started at your age.
I know, man. Like, and that's the kind of the cool thing. Like my oldest daughter, she's 11. She's getting ready to start middle school, and she's a super academically gifted child. Like, you know, my wife is a teacher, and so my daughters are very academically gifted. You know, definitely didn't get it from me, but
I know, right?
So, but she's never really shown much interest in like sports. But I go to my gym, and like it's right down the road from my house, so like I've got a key, and like I'll go like clean up and stuff, and I take her with me on Sundays to go clean up, you know, the gym and to make sure trash is taken out, stuff like that, you know. And she'll go with me, and she started like, you know, getting on the mats and like, hey, show me a couple things. Oh yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll show you a few things. And so I feel like, she's really like interested in it. And it's really important to me because this is like a weird time that our kids are growing up in,
Yeah.
like and I've listened to some of your podcasts and I know that you've talked about that with some other guys, but like it really is it's a strange time, and like I want my family to be prepared, like to be able to defend themselves if anything were to come up or anything like that. And so, we've started going over some of those basic, hey, here's what happens if somebody tries to jump you in a bathroom kind of situation, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really cool, those first times teacher had to sink in a rear naked choke and I'm like, oh yeah, let me go. And she's like, oh, really? Like, did I really? I'm like, yeah, you really did.
Yeah. We were going over Americana and Kimura the other day because it was just we didn't have any kids show up to class, so it was just me and her. So we're just going over some stuff, and my daughter, she's 7, so she obviously your daughter look at you as a hero. She doesn't see you as anything else. So we're going over technique, and I'm walking her through it, and she's like struggling to get it. And I was like, Lamira, calm down, breathe, and just follow through it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say this had to be by far the tightest Americana I've ever felt. And cause she's like she's hovering over me and she's like, struggling to get her, to get her grips. I said, okay, look, if someone's, bigger than you, this is the grip you get, blah, blah, blah. And when she grabbed it and I'm like, okay, now do this, do that, pull the elbow down, blah, blah, blah. And she just said, wah. And I felt I felt the pop in my shoulder.
Ooh.
And I'm like, oh,
yeah.
And she's going for it too. I'm fighting it. I want her to, see how it feels. But I'm like, she's doing it so right. But I'm like, okay, stop. And she's like so upset. And she's like, she's like, I couldn't figure it out. I said, oh no, you got it.
Oh yeah,
you got it. Shoulder throbbing and everything. I'm like, oh no, you got it. But it's been crazy, seeing her grow in a sport that, like you said, I never thought that I will fall into, let alone my daughter will fall into, because she used to, be upset when I used to leave her come to class when she was younger.
Mm-hmm.
To the time I took her to my my first tournament, and she was more upset because of the fact that not only did I not bring her gi, I didn't tell her that kids were going to be there. So she's like looking around, like looking in the bag, like, where's my gi? I'm like, I didn't bring your gi. She's like, why not? I was like, because I didn't think I was supposed to.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, because I want to compete too. I was like, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But
how do you feel about like kids competing? What's your thoughts on that? I'm just curious. I always like to ask like upper belts, like what they think about it.
I absolutely enjoy it.
Okay. Yeah.
I love watching kids compete.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe because I'm just sadistic and watching kids, do bodily harm to each other, or it's just sometimes when you see those kids that really love the sport, and the excitement that they get in their eyes doing this stuff, because it's not as serious to them as it is to as an adult.
Sure. Yeah.
So when I see kids, like for example, my last tournament, I saw this girl. This is her very first tournament, and she was a little short, little chubby girl, man, and I rooted for her the whole entire time because she got out there. She's like, she's like getting her little game face on, her tongue out, just ready, reaching
awesome.
for grips and stuff. I'm like, oh, this has to be the most adorable thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome.
But yeah, man, I love it, man. It's from looking at it as a discipline as well, it did help my daughter flourish a whole lot more. She's like, she's very act like, academic smart. I don't know where she get it from. I think that's, my wife that did that, but whatever. But she's amazing in school. She's amazing in class, and I saw the difference from when she first started going to school to when she started training more consistent, and how much she's just flourished as a kid. And it's like, man, this is the prime example of what the power of jiu-jitsu for kids, self-esteem and, self-confidence about themselves. Like, if any, I say, if you can get your kid in any sport, jiu-jitsu is the one I would always suggest. Not just because I do it, because I've seen what it can do.
It just makes you like, I mean, if you stick with it, right? Like, and that's kids, adults, it's everything, everybody that starts it, like you like walk around different.
Yeah.
There's something different that like comes out of you, and it's like, I don't want to call it like it's like a really healthy confidence, because like you do hard things. Like, it's a hard thing to do, and it's that there's not a lot of, I mean, even with the growth of the sport and the art form, like, there's not a lot of people that really do it. There's a lot, but in the grand scheme of like, population, it's still a pretty small number.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. Like, I've seen kids, I've seen adults come in and so timid on those first few days, and you just see this different person eventually come out, and it's really, it is so special to see that.
Because we had two people, a couple join our school a few months ago, and I think it was more so he wanted to do it, and his wife just kind of like just kind of like tagged along with him.
Yeah.
And she came to a couple classes, and I think my wife was kind of like training off and on, but she would come to class and she would be like, she would just be like so scared to do stuff, and then like I think maybe like her second, third week of class, she's rolling, or she's trying to roll, and it's just like, man, that is so awesome, because it went from like, I don't want to hurt you and to she's out there grinding with everybody else.
Yeah.
And this same thing with my wife when she's finally got back into training, and she's all like, once we rep stuff, and she's like, oh, I don't want to hurt you. I'm like, you see the color of my belt, right?
Yeah.
I've seen this so many times. I've felt this so many times. Like, I can't tell you how many times my arms has been, twisted and bended and folded. My neck has been twisted and bended and folded. Like, my body has been balled up more times than I can count.
Yeah.
You're not going to hurt me. So, I'll push her to the point where she's like, all right, you're not going to let up. So I got to go. And she's starting to build her confidence in her rolling too. So like you said, it definitely helps you develop as an adult, as a kid, whoever, whatever stage of life you are in. Jiu-jitsu helps you bring that out of you.
Yeah. And I was, I'm at a stage, working towards, the next thing now. And some of us blue belts have started helping with the kids' classes and stuff. And that's been a lot of fun, getting to help the kids, with that. And it's really neat too, because you build that family, like that gym becomes like your family, man. And that was a really cool, like, professor gave me an opportunity to like speak to the kids the other day. And that was like what I told him. I was like, as you grow in this thing, all these kids that you sit with right now, like they will be your brothers and your sisters. And like, and then there's like a whole row of adults in the back, and I'm sitting there naming like, that guy, like, we train all the time together, but we also have built a bond outside of that place together too, because we go in there and we simulate murder on each other, all the time. And we train hard. We do long rolls. We help each other progress, and you just build this amazing relationship. And the thing about jiu-jitsu that's so special in that regard is like a situation like this, we've never met. Never met. We've never, I mean, other than sending a couple of messages back and forth to get this set up, like nothing. And we're sitting here talking like we've known each other for years. And it's because we're linked to this extremely special thing, because I know as a brown belt, you've been through some things.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
I'm still young in the journey, but like, I know what it's taken for me to get to blue belt. I knew what it took. I knew the tests that I had to take in order to get there. I mean, one of our requirements was we had 2 times a year we train so that we can roll for an hour straight. That's like that's a requirement at our school. Now it's more, it's like you're 60, 70%, kind of more like a drill pace, but it's an hour roll, man.
Yeah.
And it's the craziest thing, man. You get up from that roll and you like the dude that you've rolled with for an hour, you like hug it out, and then you're bonded, dude. Like, you are bonded to that guy. It's so cool. But that's what I love about it is you meet people that you've never met before, but you're connected, and that is incredible, man. Like, it's a cool thing. Like, I sell fitness equipment, and so when I'm traveling, man, if I hit a certain town, the first thing I do is like, what kind of jiu-jitsu gyms we got in the area, because some of those gyms like to, have some kettlebells and some things like that in there too. But man, you walk in there, within a few minutes, you're bonded. And now, and I bring a bag with me because I'm like, I'm probably gonna train somewhere.
Might as well,
I'm here. Let's train. So yeah, I mean, I've linked up with guys that were clients, and now we're friends. We text all the time about jiu-jitsu. And if I see it's funny now because I'll see like their phone or their number pop up like in a text, and I'm like, my first thing is they want to talk to me about jiu-jitsu, and they're like, hey man, you got any more rowers? It's just cool, man. Like, you just have a bond with people that you've never met before, because I know what kind of mentality you have, and what kind of mentality I have. You got to be somewhat of a savage to stay in this thing.
Yeah, you gotta be a certain level of crazy to get up and, as my instructor say, get on the pad, walk in with pajamas into a padded room and simulate murder.
Yeah, exactly, man.
But yeah, man, it's like, doing this podcast. I was always trying to think about what to do, what kind of podcast I want to do. And I've heard jiu-jitsu podcasts before, but I'm like, okay, I like the idea of a jiu-jitsu podcast, but I'm like, how can I make it more I guess what's it like, down to earth, So I decided, like, you know what, I'm not just gonna be it's not gonna be any specifics. I'm just gonna have conversations. I'm just gonna say, hey, you like jiu-jitsu? I like jiu-jitsu. Let's talk about it. And 80 some episodes after that, I've talked, the people that I've met from all around the world, so many schools I've been invited to. Like I said, never met a day in my life. We could have walked past each other 50 times in our lives and never would have known it.
Yep.
But like, now we're the best of friends now. Like,
right, exactly. And that's what's so cool, man, is like, you talk about that, you walk past somebody on the street constantly, you never even think anything of it. And now, like, how it is, man, like, you get into jiu-jitsu, like, half my clothes are, somewhat jiu-jitsu related, whether it's like my school's t-shirts or like I'm wearing a Machado shirt right now or whatever. And you might walk past a bunch of people, and then you'll walk past that one person. Dude, I'm starting to get like a little bit of like cauliflower. I had a guy stop me the other day, like, you train? like, it's crazy. And I'm like, yeah, I trained. He's like, yeah, I thought so. I saw the ear. I was like, gosh, man, that's insane, dude.
It's so crazy because I told this story before, but it was a day me and my wife went out for our anniversary. It was the anniversary of Sweetie's Day, one of the two. So we go to a gentleman's club or whatever, and one of the patrons there was drunk. I mean, he was tore down, and we're sitting there talking to the waitress, and we order our drinks. The guy comes over and he's like bumping me. He's like, walking into me, and I'm like, hey, watch where you're going. So he's like, oh, I'm so sorry, and blah, blah, blah. He's like, tap me on my shoulder, and I'm like, hey, don't touch me. Hey, I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt because you're drunk, you don't know what you're doing. I'm like, don't touch me.
Right.
So after a while, he comes back, says some more stuff. I'm steady trying to push him away. And at this point, my wife was getting very uncomfortable. So I was like, okay, let's go. We can just leave. I'm like, let's pay for our drinks and we can leave. So we gets up and we're walking out the door, and the guy was like, oh, you're leaving? We like, yeah, have a good night. So he's like, oh, no, don't leave, bro. Don't leave, bro. Let me buy you a drink. I'm like, no, it's okay. We're fine. So at this point, my wife is like, you can see it in her face. Like, she's extremely nervous. So he started getting a little bit belligerent. And the bouncer at the club was sitting, he was sitting at the bar talking to someone else, and he saw us. So he turns around and he has on a Gracie t-shirt, right? So we locked eyes, and I did this.
Yeah.
He said, and turn back around.
Well, he's like, oh, you're good,
you got it.
You're good.
So we leave, and my wife was like, she's like, man, that guy was, what was wrong with him? I'm like, well, obviously he was drunk. And I just started laughing to myself. And she's like, what? I was like, oh, we were fine. She's like, what made you think that? I was like, oh, the guy at the bar does jiu-jitsu. And she's like, how do you know? I'm like, I know. I was like, because you weren't paying attention. I was like, he had on the Gracie shirt. We threw the hand sign. He turned back around. I was like, you never know.
yeah, you don't.
You never know,
man. We're just lurking in real life, I know,
right?
Crazy. It's wild, man. I mean, it's a
funny.
cool thing. Yeah, man.
Because I've talked to so many people, and just even before I even did this podcast, I was I've worked in retail my whole entire life, but like now I got like my my belt for my pants. It looks like a jiu-jitsu belt.
Oh yeah, nice.
So I think I was still a purple belt, and the guy was like, "Oh, you train jiu-jitsu?" I was like, "Yeah, I train." He's like, "Oh yeah, man, I train too. I'm a blue belt." I was like, "Oh really?" And then that conversation went for an hour, right?
Yep.
So his wife comes in the store and she's like, what's the holdup? I thought you were gonna be a minute. He's like, oh baby, I'm so sorry. I was, talking to Lamar, and he does jujitsu. And she's like, oh really? And then she jumps into the conversation. He goes on for another hour. So it's like, that's just jujitsu, man. I don't never see any other martial art does this. I can't say for sure if it's true or not, but me personally, I've never seen like jujitsu. I mean, I've never seen any other martial arts come together like it does for jujitsu.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, man. That's so true. So true.
And just kind of touching on what you're saying about like the family dynamic of it. The guys I've been training with, I love them like my brothers. And my daughter calls, majority of my training partners uncle or whatever. And my training partner's son, he calls me his uncle. And it's like, that's how it is, man. Like, we're all family. I can't tell you like how many times we had open mats and everybody got kids, and like my friend of mine, they have a 1-year-old, and he wanted to roll and his wife wanted to roll. So I'm like, give me the baby. I got her. Y'all go roll.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's so awesome. That's so awesome, man. Yeah, I mean, like the main, the main few guys, like, you kind of get segmented with the guys at the gym based on like, everybody has their certain class they go to, right? So you have like the people you train with more, and like it's just crazy, like those handful of guys, like how close we all are, like, I mean, we're training in the gym, we're training at each other's houses, like lifting weight, whether it's lifting weights or getting like, we got mats at our homes and we're like training, like, especially right now with this, like, it's been so cool, man, because like our school is not, I mean, we have a couple guys here and there that'll do tournaments, but it's more, you know, rooted in like Gracie self-defense, right? And like that kind of stuff, because that's mainly what we're here for, right? But it's been so cool, man. Like I went to my professor and I was like, hey, I just have this itch. Like I've always been a competitor. I've always played sports. I have this itch. I want to compete. And he's like, okay, yeah, it's fine. And I'm like, and I knew he's a big like submission hunter. Like he loves submission only. He always talks about the old submission only events. And I was like, hey, I found a submission only federation that I'm gonna do. And dude, the support that I have had from the gym, like guys are calling me like, hey man, if you want to get some extra rolls in, like I'm down to help you, man. I'm down to get you there, you know. And then like I said earlier, like Larry bringing guys in that do a lot of tournaments, and we've got guys that, you know, wrestled in college, and one's like, he was like an All-American one year. He's like, hey, I need you to get with Darin and we need to work wrestling. He's got to work his wrestling. Like it's just so cool, man. Like the support and the drive that like the guys on my team are like, we want you to rep us well. So we're going to push you and get you ready for this thing. And that's awesome, dude. That's amazing.
Yeah. Same here, man. Like, I got a couple guys that's been on the show that I've gotten the pleasure to train with, and just to think, man, like everybody that I've talked to, I have access to, and I'm not just, you know, I'm talking, you know, black, you know, third, fourth, fifth degree black belts down to like white belts. So I can just call or text him like, hey, you know, I'm doing XYZ, you know, you guys, whatever. And they're like, yeah, man, we'll send you something to help you out, or we'll do this, or we'll do that. And it's like I can just turn around and be like, hey, if I have a chance to go to XYZ, oh, I know somebody who has a school there. Hey, come on down, bro. You know, get some training, get some work in.
Yeah,
and
man.
I've talked about that before. Like it's crazy how if you can get in contact with someone in the jiu-jitsu community, if it's down from, like I said, the measly white belt to like a Gordon Ryan caliber guy, you have a high chance of going to train with them people.
Yeah,
like, you know, you can't call somebody like, hey, see if LeBron free this weekend to run some drills, or see if Brady down to throw some passes. No, like, no, I can, I can get a couple connections. Like, hey, if I can get in touch with XYZ, you know, oh yeah, I know, blah blah blah. I can get you to them, and that, you know, I'm flying out to go train with somebody.
Yeah.
And just because we have, like you said, we have this common love for jiu-jitsu, and it's amazing. It's so amazing.
Well, and yeah, you're right. I mean, like, even being able to, I mean, some of these guys that have been around for so long, like I got to do a few weeks ago, like one of my main training partners and I went to a Henry Aiken seminar, and dude, that was so good. It was so good. Like, I mean, you know, Henry's like, he was like one of Hickson's first American black belts. And you go into this thing thinking, like, gosh, I'm going to go to this, like, it's going to be this big thing. And like, because you think you're talking like LeBron, like when I was a kid, if you go to a basketball camp, there's like a ton of kids, like you're not going to get to really talk or, you know, have that experience with that athlete. Right. You know? But we go to this Aiken seminar, and he like purposely holds it at this very small gym a couple hours from us. And I mean, dude's like in the floor, like, all right, so here's what you do. And I'm like, this dude, like, he learned from freaking Hicks and Gracie. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's insane, you know? So yeah, it's so cool.
That's like a few years ago, we got a chance to do a seminar with Chris Harder.
Oh,
and
awesome,
man,
dude.
it was one of those things where it's like the amount of knowledge that this man has and he has no filter. I mean, if you know if you've known Chris Hodder, you know he has no filter, and it only gets worse in person.
Sure.
Like if you let him go, it gets bad.
Yeah.
But just to know, like, you know, you're thinking to yourself, like, Chris Hodder, this guy is one of the Dirty Dozen. You know, one of the the first American black belts in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And I can call this guy. I can send him a message, or I can have my instructor send him a message to get back to me. And where else can you do stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, even getting to meet Higan Machado, he came down because we're in his federation, and he comes down, and there's a few of us that are kind of like in the inner circle, like leadership crew, because our gym's pretty new. Larry had a really successful gym down in Jacksonville, kind of retired up here and was like going to be done, and then started it all over again, man, in this garage, couple guys that and he just like, I got to do it again. It's just that thing, you can't get rid of it.
Can't get rid of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, knowing how big of a deal, like, the Machado brothers are, as and Higan, and getting to sit down with him, not only like to do the seminar, but then like we all go out to like a restaurant afterwards, and we're all having a couple of beers and talking to him, and he's telling us all these stories about like his fights with Hickson and like his brothers and all this stuff, and I'm just like, I can't even believe I'm sitting here, right? Like, this is insane, So
yeah, just like with me, like our master Joe Moera, he's been around for a long time. He's under that same lineage, and when I first heard about this guy, like, oh yeah, I know he does jiu-jitsu. He was in the first few UFCs, and he's like my uncle. It's like it's like I got to meet him. When my instructor got his black belt. That was like the first time I ever met Joe Moera. And like I said, now I can shoot him a text message, or he'll shoot me a message every now and then about him traveling or whatever. And it's like, man, where else can you do this?
I know, man.
So amazing, man. So amazing.
And it's just that mentality of they know the path that you're on, and they know the things you've been through, and it's so circular, man, because from like the white belt who's a few months in and has already, like, we always tell everybody that comes in our gym, like, hey, if this bug bites you, it bites hard.
It bites hard, and it does not let go.
It bites hard, man. And it's so cool because there's just this overall respect from the white belts all the way to the black belts, and then up into the few, corals and reds and all that you have, because you just know that mentality of that person, because you have the same one. You have to have a certain ambition and drive and savagery, and, like you say, a little bit of crazy in order to keep this thing going.
Yeah, man. But I wouldn't have it any other way. I can't dare to imagine life without jiu-jitsu now.
No, man, of course not. And I think it's what's so cool about, jiu-jitsu is like one of those things where you for that hour and a half, however long the class is, it's one of the only times in my life that like I really get to like live in the moment, because I have to.
Yeah.
You can't think about like bills and jobs and all the pressures of like being a husband and a father and an adult, whatever. You can't think about that stuff, man, because if you get sidetracked for 5 minutes, you're getting choked out, dude.
You're getting choked out.
You're getting choked out. so
you take your mind off 2 seconds, man. You like, next you got 50 people staring over you like, are you all right?
Yeah, man. So it's special, man, because you get to take all and just like, we put that over there for a little while, and
yeah, man,
get that release, man. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I once I finally realized that that's when jujitsu started to become like a huge factor. Because there's been so many times where I will be, I'll just be out and about, or I'll come from work and I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna swing by the gym, for a minute. So I'm by myself, it's quiet, and it's just me and the mats. And I'll rep some stuff, work a couple, stuff by myself. And I am, like you said, I am at peace. I am just like, you know what? Yeah. No matter how hard the day is, it's like, man, everyone has these moments, man, from like, you're tired, you're beat down, you're mentally beat down, and you're like, you know what? I don't even feel like going to class. Next thing you know, you're grabbing your bag, you're in your car. I really should just turn around. You tie your belt, like, damn, I should just stay home. Next you know, that slap bump, you like, man, I'm happy I came. I'm happy I showed up to class.
That's it, man. That is it, dude. The slap bump, man. It's like, yeah, it's so cool. It's such a cool thing. I know we're almost there, so I have to ask you a personal question, because I've listened to a few of your podcasts and I've seen the guys that are on here, right? And I just have to ask, how do you combat as a long-haired jiu-jitsu brother? How do you combat this, man? Because I love my long hair, right? Until I'm in there, dude. And then I'm like, my wife will braid it for me, like on the long rolls, like because I just don't want to deal with it, and it stays tight. But dude, like, I'm one of the only guys in our gym, and we have a new kid that started coming. He's the second one with long hair. But man, like, some of these guys have figured out how to like get it out and pin it under their knees and stuff.
Man, it's
how do you deal, man? You're brown belt, so I gotta go with what you say, man. This is a coaching moment.
I have learned to avoid headlocks.
Okay. Fair. Well, all right.
Because, like you said, you have a long hair, right? I have locks, so
Yeah,
it's a lot thicker. So if I put it in a ponytail, it's not like yours where it's like, okay, someone grab it, it might slide. Like, no, my hair, it just stays there. So
there you go.
It's like, I get stuck and it's like, damn it. But it's been so many times where I'll be in the middle of a roll and I'll go for like a bump or something, and it just so happened their elbow or something is like caught on some locks, and I'm going to bump and it's like, So I just just throw it in a ponytail or throw it in a bun and just avoid headlocks. And I've gotten so good at it.
Well, that's good. That's good. I guess I need to avoid the headlocks. See, like, I like to play. I play a lot of half guard from the bottom.
I do too.
My guard is getting better, but if my guard starts failing, I always know there's an opportunity for me to lock down the leg and go to the half guard, right? So that's great, because I love the lockdown sweep and all that stuff. And plus, the lockdown is like, it's a dreadful position to be in if you're on the top. But what stinks is as soon as the crossface comes, man, and it's terrible, man. It's so bad. And the hair is always the first thing. And the only advantage that it gives me is when I finally have just had enough in a roll, right? Just whatever. And I just let it, like, the ponytail's almost all the way out. I'll just throw it out. It's all sweaty and awful. If I get to the mount, dude, I'm just like, and just drench it down, dude. Just drench it down, and and just like taste it, like that's what you get. But it's so funny. I was telling my wife the other day, because I was thinking about cutting it, and I was like, it's just annoying because like I'll be like right there in the middle of like trying to finish like a bow and arrow or something, and it'll get like in my mouth, and I'll have to like adjust it last minute, and I'll lose it, man. It's hilarious, man. But yeah, I just had to ask you that. I had to.
Cause it'd be funny, like we'll be working technique, and sometimes I'll be the like the uki, and it's so weird. Like my instructor will have me like in in like seatbelt grip. He's like moving my hair out the way, like let me move this.
It's so funny, man, because like dudes will they'll like pull their mouth guard out and they'll be like, God, Darin, like the hair, man, like always Darin's hair, like in my mouth guard. So funny, man. Yeah, but yeah, I'm like, hey, listen,
yeah,
I don't want.
man.
It's kind of a running joke now too, because like some of our guys that have been around a while, they'll like get me in certain positions and they'll like, let me move your hair out of the way real quick. It's so funny, man.
Yeah, we have another guy. His name is Scott. He has long hair, just about as long as yours, and it's the same thing, bro. It's like we be rolling, and I'll go for something, and I'm like going for a head and arm, and I'm like right here, and it's just like mouth full of hair. It's like,
yeah, man. It's so funny because like when we do our like long tests, the guys kind of at first would like they'd like kind of poke at me because I'd come in, I'd have my have like cornrows in or whatever, like braided up real tight, and they would give me a hard time. Well, as we kept doing them, I'd come in with the braids and be like, oh man, thank God his hair's not going to be all in the way and all that stuff. And it was funny because we did like a 90-minute not long ago, but we spaced it out. It was kind of different. We did like basically 3 30-minute rounds with different guys or whatever. And everybody was just like, oh, thank God Darin's hair's braided up. We don't have to worry about it today.
Yeah, because I used to wear like a cap because it's like try to protect my hair, but it'll be fine for the first half of class. When we start rolling, it gets sweaty, it gets loose, and next it's flying and there's like lots flopping all over the place. So I'm like, you know what? Like my stylist, she hates me so much because it's like I keep trying to explain to her. I'm like, hey, look, I know I just got my hair done, but don't be mad at me. It's messed up. It's messed up. And she's like, you wear a cap. I'm like, you do know what I do, right? And she's like, no, they don't make no excuse. I'm like, okay. So I showed her. I was like, next time I come and get my hair done, I'll show you a time. Every time I wear a cap and I roll, it comes off.
Yeah.
It either gets, someone gets, like you said, get you in a headlock, you pull out and then it's like bloop, or I'm sweating and I go to move and it just pops off and now it's just hair everywhere. So I usually try to keep it in, in a bun or whatever and just don't get headlocked.
I mean, I can imagine too, like if somebody, I mean, I'm sure at your level, you rarely get your back taken anymore, but
try not to.
Yeah, that's it. So, somebody takes your back and they're trying to work it in, like we'll do that, like the bridge thing where we try to like push the forehead to get like, just to get that neck just a little bit. So I'm sure like even that would just like pull that right off,
Yeah.
That's crazy, man.
So I just like, what? Screw it. Nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But Darin, man, this part comes up, man. You listen to the show a couple times, so your top 3 people, man. Who would you love to roll with?
All right, man. So Rickson Gracie,
of course,
goat.
Yes,
like no denying it. He's the goat. So Rickson Gracie for sure. Especially knowing the tales that I know, I'm sure it would be a brutal roll.
Man, I can only imagine.
You hear those crazy, like Henry Akins tells the story about, them training, and Rickson would basically put himself in the worst positions, and he'd be like, these are like black belt seminars he's doing, and he's like, all right, so tie my hands in a belt, like he's got his hands all tied up, right, and lock in a rear naked choke, and nobody could finish him, dude. Crazy, insane.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So Rickson Gracie. Any of the Machado brothers, I know I'm kind of cheating, but any of the Machado brothers, especially John Jock or, Hegan, especially them. And then Hodger Gracie, dude. Hodger, he's the man, dude. And then like honorable mention, maybe like Craig Jones, because I think that'd be hilarious. He's a hilarious guy, so I think that'd be
Yeah.
cool. And maybe like Eddie Bravo.
I love his no-gi style. I've been watching a
Yeah.
lot of his videos, man. So he's definitely climbing the charts of one of my favorite no-gi competitors. So I would love. He's on my list to roll with for sure.
Yeah, the more that I get into no-gi, I know we were kind of talking about it the other day, messaging a little bit back and forth. The more that I get into no-gi, the more that I find myself watching like old John Jock stuff, Craig, and even like Eddie Bravo's stuff. Just some of that stuff's so cool, man. Like especially not having the grips to control. So I mean, I think John Jock is what we see in modern no-gi. I don't think would even be there if it weren't for John Jock and his, I mean, all that was based off of his deformity. So,
yeah. Isn't that crazy?
I mean, modern no-gi was based out of his deformity, like that, like underhooks, overhooks, all that stuff. I mean, and then, like guys like Eddie and them, they just took all those concepts and like, put a whole bunch of juice on them and stuff. But yeah, man, John Jock's awesome. He's really cool.
Yeah, definitely, man. I didn't know that at first until I was watching something I saw like a little clip on YouTube and I saw that. I was like, wait, what? I never know. You don't think to look for that type of stuff when you hear that name. So yeah, that's awesome.
It's insane, man. I mean, like watching him, like classic. I think it was ADCC, and it was John Jock and Dean Lister. Dean is bad, and Dean won the fight technically, I guess, but like it was just amazing to see John Jock. Like he never could advance. It was just Dean just controlled from the top, but he never could get anything going.
Right.
It's just amazing, like what he, how he modern no-gi was all based on those techniques. It's really cool.
Yeah, man. I don't know when, but I'm happy I did. I fell in love with no-gi. And my gi is paying for it. my gi is paying for it, dude. Like we had a no-gi class. We had a gi class yesterday, and I felt like a fish out of water, bro. I was like, nothing's. I mean, maybe because I wasn't feeling it. I wasn't feeling too well, but like nothing was working out, and I was like, this is bad. This is so bad. But
yeah, like right now, I'm doing a healthy mix because for this first one, I'm gonna do both gi and no gi.
Nice.
So I'm getting a very healthy mix of both. So yeah, I haven't completely gotten out of my gi yet, and I won't, man. It's just fun. It's fun in the gi.
Yeah, it's love. It's like one of those love relationships. Like, oh, it's something new, something fresh, but it's there. It's there.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, Darin, unless you have any other questions for me, brother, I would love for you to shout out your school if they got anything else coming up for you. The floor is all yours.
Yeah, man. Just if you guys are ever in Hendersonville, North Carolina, Hendo BJJ, we are super welcoming school. It's a really cool family dynamic. Everybody that comes in the gym, they feel welcome day one. Everybody just wants to help everybody get better because we all were terrible and are at some point and are still working those bugs out. And so yeah, man, that's the biggest thing. Just that, and I'm sure we'll talk again at some point. I'd love to talk to you again, like when you get closer to your black belt, man.
Man, yeah, I would definitely love to get you back on the show, man. Anybody who's been on the show, man, no matter what time it is, if you guys want to, talk jiu-jitsu, I'm always up for it. If you guys want to ever come back and do another episode, I'm here for it too. So,
well, I'll hit you up after this tournament, man.
Yeah, man, I definitely would love to hear how that goes for you, brother.
Right on, dude.
All right, and that's the end of today's episode. I would love to thank Darin one more time for coming on the show and blessing us with his jiu-jitsu knowledge. Hope you guys learn from our experiences. Please go and follow our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube page to stay up to date on all future episodes. This has been Talk Your Jits Podcast. Keep rolling, keep grinding, and remember, long live jiu-jitsu. Have a great day.